Hi everyone, and welcome to your daily oracle reading. Now, this reading is a little bit special and it won't resonate for everyone, so if you're simply not guided to listen to it, please feel free to skip this. So, the challenge is the Builder, and the Builder is the Gaian version of the classic Tarot's Emperor card. And in the Oracle deck, it is more focused on action rather than the big symbolism of the Emperor, which represents our authority, it represents our inner Mars, it represents our survival instinct. In the Oracle version, it is much more what we do with our inner power, and naturally we construct, we gather, we build, we invest our energy and focus into whatever we desire, and that's how we achieve progress, that's how we achieve success, that's how we build. And building can represent something physical, as just trying to gather resources and invest them into something very long lasting. But at the same time, it can represent inner work, where we're building our inner structures, our inner truth, our inner value systems. And of course, we embody our Saturn, so to speak, where we're our own bosses, we're our own judges, our own inner critics. So we don't need this in external reality as long as we embody it ourselves. Yet still in challenge position, this card represents the shadow expression of the builder, which is obviously overdoing it a little bit or trying to forcefully control, have a very rigid approach, trying to influence really heavily what shape and form whatever we're building towards whatever we're progressing has to take, and this requires us to abandon our expectations, especially in the present moment when the karmic forces are so very active in the world, and that represents that they take away a part of our authority, a part of our control, because we can no longer clearly foresee the future. We can no longer maybe use our wisdom and life experience in a very concrete way, because the future is so uncertain. It requires us to adapt, it requires us to surrender all those things which aren't in our power, which aren't under our control, and basically it requires us to go with the flow. But the symbolism of this card goes much further into the past, where it represents that you have always been a person who was a hard worker. You always worked for what you had, you always invested a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of sacrifices into your studies. This doesn't mean like official studies where you just get a diploma, go to uni, finish a course, but this represents your personal studies, whatever was in your sphere of interest, whatever you were curious about, whatever really draw and caught your attention. So it represents your personal research, your personal studies, your personal work to acquire knowledge, to acquire experience, to get a mental grip on your subject of choice, which were actually dual, because on one hand, some of your studies were spiritual and you studied the highest philosophies existing in the world at any given time. You studied the philosophies of ancient cultures, you studied how our ancients did stuff, but at the same time, you also had very relevant scientific preoccupations where you studied how our present culture, how humanity in the present era perceives certain things, certain big questions, certain universal philosophies and rules. So you also had a very powerful, a very significant scientific approach to all of this. So this represents your linear way of thinking, your rationality, your logic, but at the same time the non-linear one, where some elements, some big themes that you have studied cannot be explained scientifically, so they rely themselves on non-linear logic, maybe faith, maybe a deeper or a higher, more escalated spiritual approach to all of this. Now, why is the past effort so very important? Well, it is important because you have made really, really significant personal progress, as in your knowledge, your experience, your ability to view things as objectively, as realistically as possible. Basically, all of these were the building blocks of the person who you are. But this knowledge, this foresight, this power that you gained and you worked for had a very high price, because chances are you suffered a lot of defeat, you suffered a lot of failures, you suffered a lot of moments when physical reality just didn't allow you to embody the vice person, the very intelligent, knowledgeable professional that you actually were. So on from a totally different perspective, basically life, destiny, the universe didn't reward you for all the time and effort and sacrifices you invested into your studies, into becoming who you are. And especially that you didn't just study, you also practiced, you also applied your knowledge, you also helped other people, you built stuff, and you helped other people build a certain life, a certain maybe career project, etc. You helped them build it with your knowledge and expertise. So you actually were a very relevant, motivating force at work in the world in the past, just that your work, your mission, whatever you did, wasn't rewarded materially, neither professionally, where the gatekeepers, the symbolic gatekeepers, like, bureaucracy, all the paperwork, all the diplomas, everything that is required to become a professional. Now that part represented major blockage for you, and you just simply couldn't overcome it. And of course, for many years, it was a tragedy, it was a drama. It felt for you personally like you were in a big loop of stagnation, where even though you're doing all this, you're investing so much effort, you're not progressing any way, shape, or form, as in physically. And this might have caused you a lot of years of suffering, especially the last 4 years of your life, because you were so determined to finally make it. And especially in the last 4 years, your life changed dramatically. You did everything that it was in your power, in your knowledge, in your expertise and experience, to change your life in such a way where finally physical reality could reflect your effort, your skills, your work, your sacrifice, being the builder and not shying away from anything. Nothing was too great of a sacrifice, nothing was too expensive, as in energetically and effort wise, for you to learn, for you to acquire knowledge and experience and to work. And I think you have done a lot of free work, a lot of charity work, a lot of sacrifices, where those sacrifices were 100% out of total compassion. So life wasn't easy for you, but still you changed your life 180 degrees, where you applied everything that you had to, and you were very, very close to the breakthrough. You were very close to the moment when you succeeded, when physical reality finally almost yielded, when you almost became who you wished to become. But then the standstill globally entered your life and stopped everything. Yes, this could be the coronavirus, maybe the virus itself, maybe the economic implications, maybe the social implications, maybe the effect it had on your local community or on other people in your life. But regardless of how it played out, you had to stop all your plans, all your ambitions, everything that you invested into becoming who you desire to be. But this was just a symbolic standstill, because only stopped in your tracks officially and materially, but on the other hand, morally, so to speak, psychologically, it was a major blessing, because you could express yourself. money and material resources and gains were all of a sudden totally irrelevant, and that was your green light. That was your, when the universe waved the start flag in your face and you could just do everything that you were guided to, that you were inspired to, that you felt the passion deep inside you. So symbolically, just symbolically, you became so much more than you even planned of becoming. You overcame all of your limitations. You might have received such a beautiful, such a really important feedback from everyone else in your life. So basically, yes, materially you are the same way as you were, and all your plans and your success was stopped in the tracks, but from a totally different perspective, which doesn't have that much to do with material gains, you actually reach the stars. If you contemplate a little bit, if you look back very in great detail, everything that you desired did actually manifest symbolically. You performed those roles which you were always guided to perform. You actually applied all of your knowledge and wisdom and everything life prepared you for. So even during this big standstill, global standstill, your life, yes, physically had to be affected by the same standstill, but energetically, karmically speaking, for you it was the big quantum leap. It was the big jump you needed to make because you succeeded. You were more successful than ever before, and that is absolutely wonderful. Just that this card is in a challenge position, so you're not seeing things as clearly as this. Maybe you're still focusing on, well, what about the material part of your life? What about your career? What about your future dreams and goals materially? To overcome the challenge of this card, you should be focusing on everything that you achieved. Because, on one hand, the universe doesn't know about money, money doesn't exist for the universe. Only us humans think of it as an energy resource, but for the universe, it's absolutely nothing. It is a symbol, but a symbol which doesn't even exist. It isn't real outside of human perception. So, from the universe's perspective, you were successful at absolutely everything, and since you overcame all of your limits, you became so much more than you even expected and anticipated. Well, then that is a massive success. And from the universe's perspective, everything that you had to do was actually done and completed with great success. And part of your success has to do that your heart, your soul, your emotions, your sense of dignity and honor was intact all along. And if that isn't a miracle, if that doesn't speak volumes about who you truly are, well, then I don't know what is. And that is what you should be so really grateful for, because what you have accomplished, what you have achieved, is truly worthy of a hero, of hero maybe of ancient times, whose honor we're singing in legends. We get to the opportunity, which is the world. In this deck, she is called Gaia. Now, in classic tarot, the world card is the most positive expression of Saturn, the lord of the cycles, the lord of harvest. So it represents a major karmic harvest, a karmic closure, a happy ending, so to speak, where all your work and efforts can simply pay off handsomely in so many different ways. But since Saturn and the world card has much to do with the element of earth, so it has to include your material life, it has to include all of this in a very palpable, material, even financial way. But this card goes way beyond this, because this is actually a karmic reward. Because as the builder told the story, the work, the effort, and even the honor, the dignity, what Saturn requires of us was there and was invested, and not you and no one else can deny this. So the universe is perfectly aware of this, and that is why what your karmic harvest, your moment of true breakthrough, is a little bit outside your expectations. Might come as a big surprise for you because it's definitely not how you envisaged it, not how you planned it. So basically, the universe, the divine intelligence, Saturn as the lord of karma, as the headmaster, the teacher who has to basically reward the student if the student does very well or exceeds all expectations. So that is almost a guarantee. So your karmic harvest is going to be something which is ideal for your soul and not as much ideal for your human sense of logic, so to speak. But this is a really good news because it exceeds it. Now, long story short, what does this card tell us that where the opportunity truly lies? Well, it has much to do with nature. And this represents that most of your work has to change. You had your time to study, you had your time to sacrifice, and from every single perspective, and now that karmic cycle in your life story and your destiny has to be closed once and for all. So which means no more sacrifice, no more superhuman efforts, no more having to overcome your own limitations and yourself, because you have already done this, and right now you have achieved the stability which you need to just simply exist, to just simply be. Don't really need any more research, any more learning, any more mastery and expertise, not because you have reached your final stage of evolution, but because learning and becoming better and improving is just part of who you are. So you're doing that implicitly, passively, each second of your life because you have learned to master this. You know the value of evolution and knowledge. You know the value of learning. So this is basically part of who you are. So you don't need to obsess about this. You don't need to search for it. You can just enter the flow, just exist, just embrace life and everything you could possibly dream of, mostly knowledge and opportunities to evolve, are going to come to you with ease every time you need it, every time you even desire it. So this gives you the power to manifest everything that you need in your life. And why now? Well, because you learned diligence, you learned responsibility, you learned how powerful the mind and the world of emotions can be. Basically, you learned to be very careful what you wish for, so the universe has absolutely no reason not to bestow that power upon you. And what this means is your past plans and what you wanted to accomplish before the global crisis began is already irrelevant because the universe has planned something much more special and much more in tune with nature for you personally. So if you were focusing on a big job and career, well then say bye bye to it, because what you're gonna receive is something where you can be very, very close to nature, because being in nature, being close to nature, living next to nature is your connection to Mother Earth, and that nurtures your soul. That is life for you. So no one and nothing can take that opportunity away from you because you need it for survival. That is what you actually need, to be around nature, to exist in nature. And on the other hand, everything else in your life has to adapt to this. So basically, the soul of the planet, the Earth Mother herself, is planning this for you, and when the moment is right, she's gonna deliver it to you on a silver tray, where everything that you ever desired of is gonna fuse together in such a way that all of your opportunities can be perfectly valid and what you have asked for can exist in your life, but in such a way where you're also perfectly connected to nature and disconnected from society. This doesn't mean isolation or solitude or living the life of a hermit. This just means that only those people who are true to their souls and themselves can be part of your life and no one else. And that is a major blessing. And that is basically the peace, the harmony, and serenity you have asked for. This state of serenity, if this state of peace can be lived through in such a way where anything else that you're passionate about. So, in other words, performing your role, the role you have in this present incarnation, and if the two are in perfect harmony with each other, and you're performing your role doesn't require you to sacrifice your connection with nature, and especially the physical connection, because you want to live in nature, well then, isn't that the biggest blessing you could have possibly asked for? And sacrificing, for example, your online presence and, certain circle of friends which are already irrelevant in your life, well then that is not a big sacrifice, is it? So for some people, this can play out in being part of a community, a nature-oriented community who try their best to live in nature. For other people, this can be being part of a group who are spiritual and also nature-oriented. And for others still, this can just represent maybe a miraculous moment when somehow, in some mysterious way, life just offers you a little place in the heart of nature where you can live your life exactly the way you have always desired it. The resolution, Guardian of Fire. Now this represents the moment when your life is already balanced. This represents your more distant future, where everything in your life simply comes to you with great ease. It just flows to you. It isn't a life of big prosperity. It isn't a life of big excess, but it is a life of comfort, a life which allows your soul and your mind to just dwell constantly wherever it desires. The only condition is for you to keep, better said, a passionate state where you make sure that your inner fire is always burning, that your connection to source is always active, and that you always embody whatever unconditional love means for you personally, because that is the guardian of fire who makes sure that the fire never fades away, never dies, but at the same time he also has to make sure that the fire doesn't burn excessively where it can represent a danger or a risk. So from a certain perspective, this does mean that your life is going to be a huge autopilot, but that autopilot is going to be the most favorable, the most blessed expression of it, because everything that doesn't interest your soul specifically is just going to come into your life with ease. It is just going to flow to you, where your soul and your focus, your energy can be invested in whatever is very important for you in that present moment. May it be, like being there for others, supporting others, healing others, doing your own thing, doing your work, or if you just want to rest and be with the universe, explore the stars, or just be with yourself in peace and serenity, well, everything is game because you worked for this. You did everything you had to in order to have this life, in order for your destiny to be so adaptable, to be so flexible, to be so mutable. So, long story short, this is where you're being invited into a future where you write your reality as you go by. Each and every second of your day, you just create your tomorrow. And this is what living in a state of flow actually means. And Mother Nature is so very important because she is the queen of the flow. So you can only live in a state of flow if you are connected to the source of life, basically. Well, thank you so much for listening. I wish everyone a blessed and safe day. Bye for now.